So since then, I've just been filming this video, and dude, I've put in some work on it.
How long has it been?
It's been 4 years. Yeah.
What's up, guys? Today's guest is a professional skateboarder, stuntman, and all-around movement athlete and ninja. Please welcome to the JAMCast, Mr. William Spencer.
Hey, everybody.
What is up?
What's up, dude?
Dude,
Hi.
this is a long time coming. We've talked about this for months upon months.
Yeah. Well, dude, and I haven't seen you in freaking... How long do you think it's been? For real? How many years?
3-4 years?
I bet you. Yeah.
I bet so.
I can't even remember the last time.
Dude,
that's depressing.
It's kind of sad. And I think like the random times you've gone to jam, I haven't been there randomly. And then like,
yeah. Well, and I do the late night thing where, you know, when you're trying something kind of weird and you're like, I'd like no one to watch this.
Well, bro, if you ever need to get in there, the private sessions, I do know someone that has a key to it. So
go on. Go on. That's awesome. Thank you, dude.
Hell yeah, man. No, it's so good to see you. Thanks for
Yeah.
taking time out of your schedule, especially during the crazy situation right now.
Dude.
But yeah, man, it's so good to sit with you. I've been
Yeah.
a longtime fan of yours, before a friend of yours, which is so surreal because that doesn't always happen where you get to meet people that you watch.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, it's just so amazing to actually be sitting across from you right now. And there's so many things I want to talk to you about and ask you.
Dude, for many reasons, by the way. I mean, look, I can't even believe like the world is just shut down. It's cool to even be able to
Have
get
a
together.
conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, we are 6 feet apart still, but
that's true. That's true.
but to be fair, we're always 6 feet apart on this show. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You designed it that way. You're so smart.
You know what I'm saying? Just thought ahead, you know. Just like Asian people have been wearing masks for how long?
Dude, you know, people in Asia are like, yeah, guys, yeah. Guess
up.
what? Dude, you know, that's exactly what everyone's like, really? Oh, you started to design them with different designs?
Asia's been like, oh, when you're sick, we wear masks. That's just a part of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you know what is cool though? How quickly it caught on where everyone's like, oh shoot. You're like, yeah, I mean, yeah.
So, common sense sometimes is not a common thing. That's the funniest part about it.
It turns out, man. Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Well, I think one of the funniest things about it was before we start the interview, everyone kind of knows it's like a longtime follower of here. I always ask people 2 questions. How to pronounce your name and what do we define you as?
Yeah.
The name was the easiest part.
Dude. Yeah, isn't that funny?
One of the easiest names possible. And what I find so funny about it is we were kind of talking about it off camera. Like, it's a very Caucasian name. It's almost like 2 first names.
Dude, it really is. I mean, it's as basic white and you know what's crazy about William is it's one of the only it's one of those names that's just useless where you name people that and then you never call them that.
I was going to ask you that.
Girl, what is the point?
Because you've always gone by Will, right?
Well, here's the thing. What ends up happening, right, is like, I'll be like, hey, nice to meet you. I'm William. And everyone's like, yeah, that's too long and we're not going to do it. So I always introduce myself as that. But over time, people are like, listen, we don't have all the time in the world to be saying your name. We're not going to do it.
So I got to ask, has any family member or friend ever called you Bill?
Dude, I can't do it. I just feel like you jump, you know what I mean? You jump from like 20 to 40 real quick with that.
What about Billy, though? Like Billy the Kid, Billy Spencer? I could see that.
I always was into those. Like, I always thought that was steezy, but for me, I was like, I just pictured myself stupider than just like feeling.
Is stupider a word?
Yeah, it is now.
Yes.
Maybe I should have been called that now that I said that.
Billy Spencer. I could see that.
Yeah, a little bit, but I think it was just like kind of so old school that I was like, it's all right.
I'll stick with
It's
Will.
cool. Yeah.
Dude, that's amazing, bro. And then I think, the second part of that, which is funny, is I was like, what do you want me to say? Are you a professional skateboarder? Are you a professional stuntman?
Right.
Like, and you basically put it on me, like, whatever you want to call it, man.
Yeah.
But you really are a man of many skills and talents.
Yeah. I mean, you know what, Travis? I think it's more of like professional, like truly like having ADD and just like running it. Just run the ADD. You're like, now what? Because that boredom of like doing the same thing, I just don't. I'd rather be like, people be like, wow, I can't, that's real random, than be like, oh yeah, this week again on another clip, oh, he's really good at that. Where at some point, I think it's cool to deliver consistency, but another point entirely is as a little kid, dude, as soon as you're bored, you're like, I'm over it. So
Exactly.
It's like helping people to not hopefully do that,
Hell yeah,
be
man.
psyched. So.
Well, one of the things that you're probably most well recognized and known for is obviously your contributions to the skate community. And I think, just from an outside perspective, from someone that has absolutely 0% skill on a board, what sets you apart is just like the way that you approach things and the style and the way that you've integrated elements of parkour, multiple boards.
Sure.
How do you define your skating style and how did that originate?
Dude, you know what is crazy is I think it just originated out of seeing people that came before me and, my older brother and my friends that I sort of just was like, coming up under, that I just saw there was a lot of missing pieces to me where I kept asking the question like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, they slid the rail. But in my mind, I'm so like, I love Jackie Chan, I love any sort of action movie, that I just saw so many other options where I think it's cool to have a craft and like keep refining it, right? And become better and better and better. But at some point, to me, the options are too many to not explore those,
Agreed, yeah.
Like, I'm just like, I just want to, like, it's almost out of pure, like, I wonder if that it's doable, Like, I wonder if that's even doable, that I would just be by myself and be like, well, no one's here. Maybe I'll just grab the spare skateboard real quick and just see, Because I'm like, at some point, and I'm sure you like have thought of this as well, but when you're a little kid, that moment where you stop playing with toys and then you're like, all right, but for real, right? For real, let's do. I don't know that there was something about, I always thought it was really sad when my friends would be like, yeah, we're not playing G.I. Joes anymore. We're just over it. Like, sorry. That I'd be like, oh, you guys suck. Can I have those? Right? And I would collect everyone else. So for me, I think it's a longer period of time where my like wanting to entertain myself has stuck around a lot longer than other people's, because I'm just like, I don't know, it was fun before. I don't change much. Throughout your life, of course there's things that help you evolve, but I was like, I just want to know what happens. So it was less about, for me, I was not like, ooh, I got to make a mark. I got to get in there and make sure people know I'm doing the different stuff. I was like, I just want to know what happens if you land one skateboard on another skateboard and then drop off of something. Like, do you die? Like, will you die? Like, is it terrible? Like, do your ankles go either direction? I don't know. Yes. And so it was like answering that question is, I think, what made me develop that style of like bringing. And what's funny is, at the time period when my first video parts came out and I just started running and jumping to the board or trying stuff, parkour, I didn't own a computer. I didn't know that it was a thing yet.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Daniel told me, he's like, you clearly train. And I was all, what do you mean?
And guys, for those of you listening, he's referring to Daniel Olabaka. Often heralded as the Michael Jordan of parkour back in the days. So.
Yeah. But he was always like, well, dude, you clearly train. And I was all, honestly, I was like, I watch Jackie Chan movies and dude, even just doing dive rolls for him is sick. When people are like trying to hit him with pipes and he's rolling under stuff, I just in my mind was like, oh, that's sick. Yeah. Like why not find a way to get to the board? Like, we're always on the board. Do we always have to be on the board? And it was answering that question of like, I don't know, maybe it's kind of steezy to get away from it and come back.
Yes.
And
so how old were you when you officially started skateboarding, and how far into the journey do you think it was before you started thinking about, hey, what happens if I bring in a second board and stuff like that?
Dude, I bet you I started when I was like 9 or 10.
Okay.
And my older brother, Shad, he didn't want to skate alone. So super good at it naturally. It was just like onto it, right? And me, I was like, oh, all right, well, you're older than me. You know what you're doing. This better be fun. And so I just kind of jumped in with him. And I learned all the like stuff like flat on the ground where it's not scary, or you're not jumping off of things, or there's no obstacles. That I could manipulate the board pretty well as a kid.
Okay.
But anything beyond that, like anything more than like knee high, and I was like, oh no.
Really?
Not into it. Now, what's weird is there's a breach in that, because as a kid I could climb trees really high, and I used to hang upside down by one leg.
Okay.
And they were like small trees, right? So the tree would be doing all this. I was fine with that for some reason,
wow.
Right? Or like, that's fine with running and jumping off stuff or flips on the trampoline, but skateboarding was like mind-blowingly scary to me. Wow. Many elements, and my brother would like ollie off stuff and do all things, and I just like, it really pushed me where I was like deeply afraid of a lot of things about it. And I think I started adding in those elements for a couple of reasons, because when my brother moved away and went to high school at this boarding school, I didn't stop skateboarding, but mostly, like I was like, I still skate and would like do it, but not really, especially our standards now of when we're actually into something, you're in deep. And I didn't realize that as a kid. So I was playing with toys or whatever. And I didn't really, until maybe during high school, I would skate around the campus a little bit. And then senior year, a couple other guys who had started much later than me were really good at skating. And they kind of pushed me to start skating again. But it was crazy to be the one who skated longest and not, like, clearly not be the one that was the best at it, like, just not super good at it. And these guys really pushed me because they were gnarly. But also, I didn't realize there's for me, there's an age as a kid where you're just like not feeling getting smoked, you know? Like, you're like, dude, I'm trying to be comfy and cozy and have sleepovers. I'm not trying to, like, get murdered.
Yeah, 100.
And I think at that senior year of high school, I was just kind of like, dude, I gotta come on. I could do this. These guys started 2 years ago and they're better than me. Like, I could do this, right? And so I just started just playing that game of like, just like, dude, this can't. It was almost like it could have been anything. If someone was like, all right, like, now you're like playing baseball because your brother played, I would have gotten good at that because I was mad at myself for being afraid of it. So it just happened to be skateboarding because I was much better at like walking on my hands or flips or any of that stuff. Which, by the way, my oldest brother, naturally, he was like, I don't know, 10, 12. He could like do back handsprings down the driveway. And my dad was like, what's up? Where'd you learn that? So cool. He's all, where did I learn it? Just
self-taught. Wow.
Dude. Yeah.
No way.
So even that I was terrified of. Like, I could do stuff on the trampoline, climb, but nothing substantial. Anyway, so basically, to kind of get to the real question that you asked is that I went to college for a couple years, was like, oh my God, college is so boring. Like, I can't believe this exists. Like, what do I do? Like, I didn't realize I have a very natural, and I know most kids do, where you're like, well, no, I just do what I want to do. Like, I remember as a kid being like, people would be like, all right, so you got homework tonight. And I remember as a kid with no outside influence being like, no, player, you got 8 hours out of me today. I'm going to be back tomorrow. You can have another 8, but I have to go home and not do this.
Live my life.
Yeah. I was dead serious about it, you know? And I think on a bigger scale, college was the same way where I just couldn't. I was like, they're like, ooh, yeah, you got to do all this stuff during the week. And then over the weekend, make sure you get all these extra pay. And I was all, ew, what? Like, who, and you know what my big question, who made up this whole, like, why do we have to do all this stuff? And I would try and have the teachers justify to me why we were even doing it. And they're like, that's not the question. And I was like, oh, this is not for me. So, dude, out of college. And then I think the real kind of answer to what you were asking is that as I was skating with my brother, I had nothing better to do. Like, wasn't good at school. I was just like, oh, life, like, maybe it's because I watched movies or read books, but life just comes to get you and then you're on an adventure.
Yes.
You know, and I was just it was like, I was dead serious, like waiting for something to happen. Like, all right, life, go.
No
and just
way.
nothing, like just waiting in the silence and nothing happened. And I was like, oh my God, I have to do this myself. And so I remember having a moment of being really terrified. It's still skateboarding and like just stuff that you think wouldn't scare me. Super just like a cattle guard, you know, like, horses and cows could just jump that, but there's something that feeling, right? And so one day I was like, all right, dude, from now on, if you're going to have a life that anybody wants to hear about or care about, you just have to push yourself as hard as you can every day. Let's just see what happens if you push yourself as hard as you can. Let's just see. And I think within that, I started skateboarding because it was the only thing that I was familiar with, that I knew I could push myself and go in that direction. Mm-hmm. And then the flips and the like acrobatics and stuff, I just added it later because I remember seeing my brother. From far away, skateboarding looks a certain way. When we get in close, people that are filming a video part, people that are already very good, very proficient at it, you start to learn that they're on this certain path, actually, that there's a certain number of things they can do because they're familiar with it, but they don't have a wide range of knowledge. They're like, well, I know this many stairs I can do, and I was like, well, what if we go crossways, or what if we jump the other direction? They're just asking.
I got you. Yeah,
because I was such an outsider that I had the rare bonus of being far enough away from something while familiar that I could ask all these questions. I was like, yeah, but why not do it like that? And they're like, I don't, and they just never thought about it because they were so deeply into it, where I was into martial arts as a kid, you know, like I was into other stuff that when I came back to it and really gave it a try, I was like, well, I'm just going to try like this. And they're like, okay.
Yeah, and then, makes sense though.
But you know what's really cool is my friend Mark Spencer. I mean, which is crazy. He has the same last name. Every time everyone's like, your brother, I'm always like, you know what, freaking yeah. Yes. Let's just leave it. Yes. All white people look the same. It is fine. But he was good humored enough that as my brother was finishing off his video part super deep, and one of his best parts he ever made, that I would be on the side, wait for people to get tired, wait for people to like, you know, like, oh, I don't want to be at the spot. And then I'd be like, hey, I got an idea. What if I put a skateboard at the bottom and then and they would be like, fucking sure, dude, sure. You know? And so it really started out that way, that the good humoredness of my older brother and then of Mark and people around, my friend Stutz, that they were like, you know what, dude, sure. Like, I don't know, maybe try it. And that it just became me experimenting. And so the adding two boards and the parkour elements and the stuff like that became a thing simply because, like, there's a clip of me that I won't call it famous, but a clip a lot of people have seen where I ride up to a car, I jump up, I hood slide like the very top of the car back to my board. Yep. And on that day, my brother's like, yeah, you should do this really hard trick. We're at this loading dock and whatever. And I just was like, dude, this freaking trick, like, I can't do it. It's scary. I don't like it. And so he's like, all right, well, do you want to leave? And meanwhile, I'm dilly-dallying with the car. And at some point, he's like, just give it 5 tries, you know?
No
And
way.
so that's that clip. And here's the thing,
one.
and that's nothing on him because he's very creative himself, whatever, but in the moment of older brotherness and wanting me to, like, kind of shape what he thought would be best.
Yes.
He's kind of like, yeah, dude.
The tricks he's used to.
Yeah. That he was like, but he's still cool enough to be like, fine.
5 tries.
Yeah.
He's counting like
And you know the problem was is 15 in, he was like, fuck, I knew it. God damn it. I knew I was going to be here for a while. I knew it. Anyway, so it's really cool to kind of round out that question.
So correct me if I'm wrong, though. You started skating at 9, but that epiphany, so to speak, didn't happen until post-college? No way.
Yeah, because I had all these, like, I watch cartoons all the time. Very, like, dude, I was into action figures and collect all of those things, having my own battles, wars, like, you don't really, like, I don't think people give it enough credit. And maybe it's just me as a personal thing, but as a kid, you don't realize you can create whole worlds. Like, if you wanted to, you could do the plot of Reservoir Dogs in your basement real quick. Like, there's so much creativity in there that I think I had that all built up in a different space in my mind. And then it was time to be like, all right, dude, are you going to try your hardest today? I started just drawing on stuff that I was like, that I just theorized. I was like, yeah, it'd be really cool if a guy ran up and did that, and maybe he could, like, meet his board again or something. And so it just became a thing of, like, experimentation. And thankfully, my friends were cool enough to be like, yeah, man, okay, we're actually done for the day. We'll let you, you know.
We'll just sit and watch and film.
Yeah,
that is crazy, man. So realistically, you know, and this is just like a comparative thing to most things in our society. You kind of caught on to that somewhat later in life. I mean, a lot of kids that make a career out of a sport initially got into it when they're a lot younger, put in tons of times. And it's not to say you weren't writing, but you didn't really push your own style.
Yeah, I did. Later. And there's a lot, you know, it's another thing that I always kind of compare it to, and I mean this in the not flattering way, but like Queen, right? Like, dude, the lead singer of Queen, Freddie Mercury, that dude was amazing at opera.
Yeah.
And you're shocked that he didn't just have a career in that, right? But guess what? That's not freaking interesting, right? That's not interesting sometimes. And it's cool that you have that guy that's great at it. But the contrast is what's cool. He's like, no, I'm going to make music with rock and roll, though. Where me, dude, I should have been a ballerina or some dance, like some dancey, not having to deal with danger at all is what my genetics and what I feel is more my thing, you know? Like, really. But I think knowing my brothers and, like, seeing my brother, like, how he would just, like, take slams and just be totally not afraid of stuff, that I was like, well, let's do this, you know?
That is wild.
And so I think, and it's always interesting, too, the sharing of, because we're half brothers, but the sharing of genetics and then seeing the flaws on either side and what could be better. It was cool to be influenced in that way, because there's a lot of skateboard tricks that I just couldn't do. At the first videos that I made, like Burning Daylight, Mark Spencer's video, I think it was actually called the Advocate video, but in that video, a lot of the stuff that I do in there was purely stuff that I was like, hey, I'm not capable of whatever this technical skateboard trick is, but I am capable of this, and I think it's just entertaining enough that we should film it.
Yep.
You know?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and so that was more of that in that first video. And then by Colorado, when I had pushed myself, and there was a bunch of, like, really good, like, to me, regular tricks in Burning Daylight, then in Colorado, I was like, dude, let's just do something super fun. I just finished off a video part I'm very proud of. And by the way, when I got sponsored for that, during that first video being filmed and hanging out with my brother and moving to Denver as just like a backup plan to I don't have anything better to do, that when I got sponsored, I was like, oh no. Like that was my only life goal.
To get sponsored.
Like barring what you think of yourself. I was dead serious though. I was like, dude, if I ever got sponsored, anyone thought I wasn't terrible at this, I would be psyched out of my mind. When I finally got, I was like, oh shoot.
And who was your first official sponsor?
Advocate Skateboards was. Yeah. And the Denver shop too, but my brother, typical, my brother was like, I know he's weird, just put him on. And they're like, but my brother like has that deep respect from everyone because he's been doing it for years.
Yeah.
He's that good of style. And not only that, but he has a lot of leadership tendencies that he does in a very casual and also very caring way. You know, some leaders like, just do this. He's not like that. He's just like, dude, let me tell you. And like, he's like nurturing. And so people really listen. So when they're like, he was like, put my brother on the shop. Everyone's like, yeah, okay.
Dang.
Never mind that like, dude, it's a miracle that I got in those videos. Cause if you look, everyone, it's pretty hardcore shop, like very dead serious. And then you're like, oh shoot, where it was very cool of him to like help me along like that, you know?
Yeah. That is wild. It's just so surreal to me because like for as long as I've known you, you've always been the fearless one who's always like, let's party, let's go do this mission. And to hear that you had somewhat of a, you know, just a little bit of cautiousness.
Oh, dude. Well, you know what I think it is though, Travis, is I think things work in extremes where they say that deeply shy people will end up being, they're like, that dude is a public speaker guy now.
They'll just lose it and just fully break out of his shell.
Yeah, and for me though, it was a deep, and obviously you have to work through this, but for me, I was just deeply hated being afraid of things that I felt like on one hand, in my mind, I was like, I could do that. That can't be that hard. Like, let's do this. And then when I would get there, I would be just terrified of stuff that I just started breaking the button, the like fear button. I would just break it off because I was so mad about being afraid of it, even though someone normal who maybe grows up with their actual parents who can explain it, like, oh no, we're just not like that. And I was scared too. And like justifying it, where growing up with people who are like, just like facing it head on, it makes you just want to evolve to that and just let go of the other part. So I was just mad about being afraid, you know?
That's crazy. But I mean, it does speak a lot to your character though, because there are some people that just can't personally break through that threshold of fear on their own.
Sure.
You know, there's a lot of guys that, you know, I've even been guilty of myself in parkour sometimes. When I'm outside looking at a spot, I'm like, no. And then some European kid will walk up and do it. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
I wasn't born in the UK, but damn it, you know.
And dude, well, I find it fascinating because I went to train with Daniel in his hometown, and my mind was blown even after filming a bunch of video parts, even after being out here and doing the Hollywood thing and training with everybody who's like gnarly at stunts. Still to go there and like to see how those guys train, it wasn't the thing that stuck out that I was like, oh my, is the consistency with which they could do something gnarly.
Agreed.
And like, just like, oh, you didn't catch it? Let me do it again. And like, dude, you know, I was for 3 hours would be building my way up, screaming at myself to finally get it. And then once I had landed the trick and filmed it, I was like, I'm never going to do that again.
I'm good.
You know,
it's on film.
I'm never going to do that again. I survived, but like very proud of myself.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It wasn't like I was like, oh, that's lame that I don't want to do that anymore. Yeah. I was like, good job to me for living and then filming it. Where when you know, I was like, I'm not trying to live here. I'm trying to visit, then go home to where it's safe.
Exactly.
But with Daniel, just to like, I'll tell you a story. I think I've told it a couple of times, but so me, Daniel, Tim Sheaf, and Damien Walters.
Wow.
We're on top of this parking garage, and it must be, I don't know if it's where Damien's gym is or not. We went there one time to visit Tim and then went to the gym and got to play in there, whatever. And we filmed a little, but not much. And we're on top of this parking garage, spot hunting or whatever, and we're climbing down. We're making this climb down, which the climb down to me, I was like, oh, like, I'm comfortable. And everyone's all, why does your face look like that? And I'm all, it's fine. We're in Europe. You know, at this point, though, it's like, I don't know, a couple weeks into the trip. So I'm somewhat used to the antics, but not really. And we finally make it down to a ledge, and it must be another 2 stories to the ground. Maybe. I bet you it was more like 3, because I remember looking down and being like, just no. Just like everything about doing anything on this ledge right now is a no. You know, where if I get within like 2 stories, I'm like, I'll think about it because I'm thinking I could grab a drain pipe on the way down and maybe the ankles won't break, you know, like something like that. We're up that high and shocker, it's England and it's raining a little bit and there's puddles and we're on this sort of ledge that must be, it's maybe 2 feet wide. Slightly more, but not much. And just to the inside is a parking garage, but you got to like duck under to actually get in there. And the other direction, there's a wall here and there's a wall there, and they're the exact width of the thing we're standing on. And so Daniel and Damien and Tim, they're like making plans like, yeah, we should do a bunch of YouTube videos together. And Daniel's like, yeah, of course. And Damien's like, of course, already. You're like, oh, I know who you are, you know? And all of a sudden they start theorizing and they're all talking and Daniel's like, yeah, so I could like palm flip here and you could palm flip on the other side and it must be like 15 feet apart or whatever. But he's like, we could palm flip at the same time. Maybe Tim could go that direction. And you could tell that Tim and Damien were both, and they're very proficient. They know what they're doing.
Tim's a world champion of parkour, guys.
Yeah, they know exactly what's going on. And Tim kind of looks at the ledge. He's like, yeah, totally. Yeah, we could work that out and kind of build up to it. And everyone kind of then is like, well, good, we talked about it. And we're all crawling inside the parking garage side, the safe side. And Daniel sits there for a second and he kind of like, you know, like wipes his feet a little bit, looks at the wall kind of casually with nothing in his body that was like tensed up and ready to like, because dude, there's certain things I try that, you know, I'm like.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, get hyped, get amped. Yeah.
Boom, palm flip on the wall, on the ledge, lands in the puddle. Right next to the sheer drop. And he's like, yeah, that would totally work. And we're all... and you know, those guys quicker than me were like, yeah, Daniel, yeah, typical. And because they've hung out with him a lot. And I was like, immediately ran over and then looked over the edge one more time. And I was like, you son of a...
Dude.
You're dirty.
He's such a legend, bro. One thing I'll never forget about Danny was MTV Parkour Challenge, the pilot. Way back in the days at Lacey Studios. Danny's standing on top of this ledge that's like 12 feet high, maybe 13 feet high, and he's on the top of it so we can pass him an 8-incher to lay on the top for somebody. So we're pushing it up. He's backing up, and all of a sudden we hear him go, oh! And he slips backwards off the ledge. And we're like, oh my God. We all like, oh crap. We run around to see like if he's on the ground, and he goes, I'm good. And we look up. He had fallen backwards. By the time we freaked out and looked at each other and ran around, he wall climbed back up the 13-foot ledge and was back on top standing with the mat in his hands. And we're like, oh, all right, cool, man.
Yeah,
not all men are created equal.
No. Oh, and I've said that so many times with Daniel. And what's funny about him though, is he's always so nurturing about it. He's like, no, dude, you got it. And I'm like, I know, in like 6 years from now, I will also do that.
He's always trying to talk everyone else into
But it's really, there's something really cool about that your hero could be that cool.
Yeah,
you know?
No, I agree.
I think that's really awesome. I mean, dude, I've got stories for days where we'd be climbing that original structure, the one that like was famous, like, and all it is this, I think they play soccer and that's where they keep all the equipment, but it looks like a compound of some kind, you know, it looks like a blown out, like maybe there was a war here and this is all that's left, you know?
Yeah, totally.
With all the green handrails and whatever, but he would use that, sure, he would use it to flip off of and stuff, but dude, he would rock climb that thing.
Yeah.
And he knew it so well that like I would look up and it's not within me usually to over exaggerate things because I just don't. It either is or isn't. And he used to be like, yeah, you just got to grab the little knob and I would be like, yeah, and then get halfway up there and just realize like, dude, like if you haven't done this since you were like 10 years old, it's not happening.
100%.
Like, and he's talking about little stuff that like your pinky fits in. And you're like, but there's something so cool about his detail orientation of knowing exactly how to do it. And then I was thinking like, oh, whatever, it's just this guy. But his friend Martin.
Yes.
Have you ever met Martin?
I know who he is.
Dude,
I know who he is.
Wushu champion guy. Surprise, surprise. They're like training together, just getting fierce. Anyway, he could also do these routes. Yeah. Like one day he showed up because I'm like struggling, kind of mad. And I was like, I really thought I had something there. You know when you like feel good about where you're at and then you're like, I really thought that I was better than that. That he could do it too. And it actually does help me. Like for some reason, if I'm around people that are just super gnarly, my brain likes to talk me into it, which I think is cool. Like where some people get intimidated and they're like, oh, these guys, I got to get the people back to my level. I don't want to get hurt. And for some reason, my crazy mixes with that. And I'm like, I could do it. And so I've been talked into some stuff that I'm still like,
yes.
Should we have? I don't know. You know, but incredible rock climber too.
Oh, dude, those
incredible.
Guys,
like
those guys will forever be idols of mine in the movement world. It's surreal whenever he like will send me a message on Instagram. I'm like, wow, I still get a little kick out of Danny Labaki sending me a message.
Yeah.
This is dope,
oh, same.
Dude.
No,
you know?
dude, and his creativity is a big part of it too. That's the thing is he is that gnarly, but he'll still do stuff that's noticeably well thought out.
100%.
You're like, that's just a great use of. I don't care. That's a great use of space. Like you. And you know, it's funny. He always makes me laugh because I'm like, Daniel, if I were you, I could accomplish so much.
Exactly. I think of that too. If I had my business sense and brain with Danny's body and skills, oh Lord.
Yeah, I don't even know. Yeah, exactly. Such a fantastical thing. Well, and you know, a lot of times I'll show him tricks that I'm trying, and he's always really supportive. He's like, "Oh man, that looks super hard," or "That looks scary," and I'm always like in the back of my mind, "Does it?" Does it really though?
Does it really look
Are
scary?
you kidding?
Yes.
You know, but you can't help it. Anyway.
Oh, dude, that's so funny. Hey, yo, so one of the things I got to ask you about, because I feel like it'll lead into a segue of a bunch of questions I have, is you've done tons of different things that are well-known clips I've known. Connor, try to pull this one up on the list if you can of skate clips. Look for the front flip to board one.
Ah, yeah.
And in my opinion, this was one of the first ones that like stuck out in my brain way back in the days as like one of the ones that kind of like puts you on the map in mainstream media. You know what I'm saying? Because like this clip right here, this clip right here is one that I remember seeing way back in the days. And my question for you is, because I've seen some of the outtake ones.
Sure.
How long did it take you to do this? How many takes was it? And did you do it all in one day?
The answer is going to be much more interesting. So, dude, this clip, here's what's great. I'll give you a backstory to the backstory. Is that my good friend Jared Stutz, incredible skateboarder, just one of those people that you're like, it must be nice to be you. You know, where he'll
it's like being friends with a niece for me.
Yeah, where they'll take 6 months off and they're like, I'm so rusty. And you're like, are you, though? Is this rusty?
Yes.
Are you just saying that? Anyway, my friend Jared, he was really good friends with, he was kind of not raised by, but a little bit. He spent so much time at the Boulder skate park, and Michael Burnett, who was a fellow skateboarder, much older, but like, you know, obviously like kind of like just looking after him and watching over him, whatever. And he became one of the main guys at Thrasher magazine.
Yes.
And so what ended up happening is that Stutz, when the Burning Daylight video came out, he showed that video to Burnett. He must have been visiting or whatever.
Okay.
And what was crazy is, and this is another rare thing, but for me, since I was never that deep in skateboarding, the rules of like where the line is of like what's entertaining versus like what's respectable or a good thing to put in a video, that I actually ended that first video part not landing that trick over and over again. So my ending of that, normally people have a great big trick at the end of the thing that's like, see, I did it. I'm so great. And that was just me slamming. And he saw what I was trying to do. Michael Burnett did. And he was like, dude, tell your friend that if he can land that front flip down the set on the skateboard, that I'll give him a spread and thrasher. I'll give him an interview.
Wow.
And of course I was like, huh? You know, because I'm like, my mind is blown that someone's even sponsored me, because in my mind, my standards are so high for what's good and what I think I can accomplish, even though I haven't yet or whatever, that I was just baffled, but also at the same time, deeply motivated, because you're like, who doesn't know Thrasher?
Exactly.
Like, who doesn't? And so it actually, I bet you it took me, when I say sessions, I bet you it took me like at least 6 different days, different sessions, 2-3 hours of running up to it, being too afraid to flip, or running up to it and splitting my legs the last second, taking the slam that comes with it. Just all the, I bet you it's at least 6 times. And then that's kind of like, and it comes and goes. It's cool. I've actually had some like shots in the ankle, the old PRP or whatever. For a long time, people like, when you first wake up in the morning and like walking to get coffee, people are like, you walk with a limp, you know? And it was from that, just murdering my ankle that many times.
From that trick.
Yeah. And so and it must have been at least 6 times that I went back.
Hours upon hours.
Yeah. And back then without like, cause really in my mind, when I started trying that, I was thinking to myself, man, I can't do a crazier, like quote unquote regular skateboard trick, but I can do flips and I can jump to a skateboard probably. And I want to finish my video part with something that like people aren't bored, that was the simple math of it, that I was like, I think I could probably do this. I don't know why, maybe it'll work. That it was no further thought out than that. You know, I wasn't like, ooh, this will be revolutionary. I was thinking, this won't be terrible.
Yeah.
You know, like this won't be crummy, I hope. But yeah, dude. So I think that was a big motivation to have that. And sure enough, and then the spread came out and
full spread and thrashing.
Yeah, it was very cool.
When you landed it as a result of those 6 sessions, was there a huge like celebratory moment when you landed it, or was it more a sense of like relief that you didn't die, or was it like relief that the pressure was off your back, or were you like, okay, dude, I did it? I think here's what was is like me now, so many years later, and so many tricks that are as heartbreaking and hard and whatever as that, you know, that me now, I always celebrate. Sometimes I'm trying tricks that are so hard now that I'll celebrate just like having tried it. I'm like, we're going to Korean barbecue. Because I tried it. Yeah. Because they're just so scary, you know? They're just like so mind-bogglingly like, dude, it's so stressful, you know? And also too, I think what's interesting is when you, and then I'll get back to the original question, but when you are trying to accomplish something that hard and that many things that are that hard, that are individually, that you start to realize that you can't base your happiness upon whether you do it or not. Because if you do, I would be like 6 days a week. Your life would be in shambles.
Yeah, I would be like, oh, I blew it again. And so I'll actually just like, if I go out with a film, and a lot of my last tricks, my new video part that's coming out, I'm driving 2 hours to the spot, like just to try it.
Just to try it.
Where when I bring my filmer, I bring, you know, whoever with me or pay, or sometimes I'll have a photographer and the filmer. I'm like, you guys just drove 2 hours. Like somebody's getting something, you know? And so it's cool because it's actually helped me not be so, you know, like risk to reward. And like, if I didn't get it, my life is terrible now. So I've like kind of gotten over that. But to answer your original question is, we did celebrate, I think, especially right in the moment, you know? And you can hear my brother in some of the video clips. He's like, oh my God, right? And that's my oldest brother, which I think he was filming one of the angles. And you know what's really cool about that is during that video part, I think he was a little bit inspired, you know? Like, all right, you're doing some crazy, interesting stuff and you're not quitting. Like every time you get better at skateboarding, you're still trying crazy, weird stuff that's yours. So I think he was a little bit inspired by it. So he and I were filming each other's video parts. And that's why, like, if people are always like, oh, who filmed that? And I'm always like, oh, I filmed it because my brother made me film stuff. So now I can film stuff, right? I'm like that guy. But what ended up happening is in that moment, what was really cool about him being so happy for me is because he was like not on the fence, but for a lot of years, I think he was like, you're my younger brother. Like you should be well-rounded. You can do all the crazy stuff, but you need to make sure that you can do these tricks and like just a proper skateboarder,
foundational stuff.
And which, by the way, to anyone within that makes perfect sense. And that's perfectly on point for where they are. But for me, I'm just not like that. My brain doesn't work like that. So it was deeply meaningful that he was like, good, like that was awesome. Yeah. And I was like, dang, you know, like that means a lot coming from you because he didn't have to be happy for me, you know?
Totally.
He's like, yeah, you did a flip. I'm not sure you need to, you know? So that meant a lot. It was cool.
That is crazy. Hey, yo, Connor, try to pull up the board to board one. And so obviously,
dude, let's talk about that.
Obviously, the next evolution of the trick is instead of front to the board is to ride a board.
Yeah. Well, and this was my brother's first.
And then front flip. And then land on another board, which is insane to me because, first of all, I don't even know how you take off of a moving board and throw a front flip, first of all.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, what's the backstory on this one and how long did this one take?
Dude, so the backstory is that I think that's one of the things, and bless him, and many people would say it, but they're like, yeah, good job on your flip to the board or whatever. now, I mean, I wonder if you could do it from board to board, where they were kind of like going, yeah, you kind of did the easier version, right?
Yeah.
And well, by that point, unfortunately, I was like, just kind of, I don't know. I was like already on Spiderman and already doing other stuff that I was kind of like, well, I'll get to it, you know?
Okay.
Like I'll get to the old flip board to board thing, which is funny. I got a hilarious, like relatively recent story about this. So people you see on the internet, right? People do flips board to board, like off of little stuff or at a skate park. They don't do it at like a real, like a spot, right?
Just like a random piece.
Yeah, always. It's always like off of a perfect bump or something, which you're like, cool. If I were any smarter, I would do that, right?
Exactly, yeah.
But for me and where I come from and the standards of my brother and other people I skateboard, like, you don't do it at a skate park. Like if you want it to be real, you do it in the street.
Go find a spot.
It's typical with like, you're going to do it in the gym or you're going to do it on concrete.
Exactly.
Like you can do it in the gym and everyone's going to clap, but you do it on concrete and people are going to go, oh shoot, right? That's just, there's a difference.
Yeah.
So I put this up the other day because I saw yet another one and I was like, hey, believe it or not, guys, you see this a lot now and I'm really pleased that it's finally caught on, that I feel less like a freak or less whatever, like unrelatable. That this is actually, believe it or not, one of the first board-to-board flips. And somebody wrote me and was like, actually, dude, when did you do that? Well, I did it at this time. And like wrote me something and then showed me some footage where he's like going off a perfect launch ramp, like just a perfect launch ramp with a helmet on and a super safe situation, and does like a side flip or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, I did it first. And I was like, I wonder where you got that idea from.
Exactly.
Yeah, where I'm like, and of course, dude, I'm never gonna, because there are many things around the planet, and thankfully, like back in the day, you could never tell, but now sometimes people have the same idea at the same time. Sure,
of course.
But this is one of those things where I was like, listen, I'll bet, like you're like, it's cool. I'm glad you did that, but guess what? This is what I told him. I was like, hey, I'm gonna even change my post, and I'm gonna say this was one of the first ones ever done, not the first one ever done, one of the first ones.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what I'll definitely do to change my post? Why don't you go to a street spot, right? Not on a ramp or something that helps you, but a real spot, and do it without a helmet or any protection or anything.
Yes.
And I will replace my clip with your clip, and I'll put your clip up, and I will tell
page.
everyone that you did it first. Oh, I can't believe what a bad attitude you have. And I was like, cool.
All right, cool.
Cool. So it's funny the drama that stuff kind of brings around, because for me, with my older brother and other influences, I wasn't even sure it was a good idea. I just really wanted to do it, and I thought I could do it. And so that was the answer to the question of people like, well, yeah, you can run and do it, but I wonder if you can do it board to board. And then when I answered that, funny enough, this clip didn't get much play. It got a third, a quarter, the tiniest amount compared. And I was like, well, that's good. I'm glad I terrified myself by rolling up on that board. And then,
did the harder version, and people don't even realize it.
Yeah, and you would not believe how much different your body is for me. And I don't mean off a ramp or something that kicks you for height, but just flat off of something and then jumping.
Nuts.
You just feel like you're jumping off of nothing.
Oh, it's nuts, yeah.
You're like, I may as well be jumping off like a slip and slide right now.
Totally.
So, dude, I was so happy when that was over.
That clip is super unique to me because, like you said, like it's not a perfect kicker ramp. And like there's so many elements in my mind when I watch it. I'm like, dude, he had to find a spot for this too, because if you did that off the stairs, like in your original video, the board would have fallen down the stairs. But in that video, you clearly did it in front of a fence so that it was like a guardrail. Yeah. And I'm like, there's so many things going into this that people aren't thinking about. As a stunt coordinator or up and coming one, I'm sitting here like, oh, bro, he's got this here. I would have maybe put a safety line on the back of it. Yeah, like, well, dude, hard lined off, like. And it wasn't until, and somebody else, it's funny they picked up on it, but there's a guy, his name is Adam Miller, and he did a backflip version, like a backflip board-to-board version after this. He saw this and was like, got inspired. And what's funny is when you watch his clip, he purposefully, I just put that rock there because it was shooting off every once in a while, but I wasn't using the rock. Like, if you think about it, like, hitting something that makes you jolt would make it easier, right? But it just stops momentum. Yeah, it just stops momentum, kind of slingshots you. But I didn't want that. I just put that rock there because I was annoyed and I was trying to get the board to not fall down the drop every time. In between the fence or whatever. Yeah. And but when he did it, he actually put something there so his board would bash into, which is funny that it transferred over. He's like, that's how you do it, because he saw the rock there. The little rock there, which I was like, oh, that's cool. Because certain details, like, I
most details I don't miss because I'm looking for them, because usually that's what makes it work, those little minute things. But I was like, that's cool. He actually paid attention to that. Yeah.
Dude, I've analyzed that clip forever.
It just,
forever.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy is its tendency, the board want to keep going.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that tendency, my new video part.
Oh, snap.
Mm-hmm. I was like, if it's going to keep going.
See what happens.
Yeah, let's just see what happens.
So before we get into the new video, the one question I got to ask you is.
Please.
What is the trick or sequence that you're most proud of in your career? And is there one that stands out as a highlight, or are you, gonna make it think now? Is there one? Because I mean, and you can take your time. I'll keep talking about it while you think. But for trickers, you know, everyone's like, oh yeah, first time I did like my triple cork or my quad cork. You know, I just want to know, like, of all the crazy personal challenges you've created for yourself, if there's one that stands out as the one that you're most proud of, or maybe had to overcome the most obstacles and fear, you know, in order to pull off.
I'm trying to not bring up the new video part.
Oh, and that's cool too. You could just say it's in the new video, and we just won't talk about it till the video comes out.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. It is. I'll tell you why. Because back in the day, when for instance, do you remember the clip where I ollie up and I ride up a remotely steep bank and then jump off and then backflip back to my board?
Of course, dude. Of course.
That was one of those that I was really proud of, because the timing of it was so stupid, where your board couldn't even, if the nose touched the wall and glanced off too quick, it was just the ultimate nightmare of like consistency, where you're like, a lot of tricks, you're like, all right, I know that I need to go this many steps back. I need to
board stationary for a landing target. I know which clip you're talking about. It's like that overpass.
I was proud of myself for that, because everyone was kind of like, oh, you're the front flip guy now, and you're the run to your skateboard. So I felt really good about answering the question of like, oh, I wonder if he could backflip though. You know what? I wonder if he could do it on a board that's moving. That felt good to me.
You did it all in one, yeah.
Yeah, and that I probably took the same amount of tries as that, 6 or 7. I don't know. But dude, what's crazy is that back in the day, that was a big deal, and you're like, keep going back, and of course you're like, I don't know if this is possible, if it's doable. Me now, dude, there's tricks in my new part that I think I went back like 14 times maybe.
Oh my God.
Just like
and hours per time.
Oh yeah. And not only that, but there's a schoolyard that's over, it must be East LA. It's called Aragon Elementary.
Okay.
And the fences are stupid tall
just to
get in. And I made these giant skateboards because the picnic tables, I was using a picnic table and dragging it all the way out to the middle, not where it was in the nice little area, but all the way out down in the flat area where I wanted to use it for. And I used to, dude, that place I went at least 12 times or 13.
Holy crap.
And every time, those picnic tables are so heavy that I need that giant skateboard where I'd haul the giant skateboard over the fence first, all the camera equipment over, everything to do it. Like, just, it was crazy. It was cool to feel like that dedication finally paid off.
Yes.
But I was surprised at myself that I'm like, wow, you're nuts. Like, you will do so much to make sure this happens. Yes. And then the gamble of like, is it even worth it? You know? But it's crazy to have upped my scale from then, you know?
100%. And that's what's crazy. I can't even imagine what you're not able to talk about yet in the new video. It must be bananas.
Well,
so,
you know what, I hope the gamble pays off. I hope it is. Yeah. You know?
That's really the thing is like...
That's the hard part to know.
You don't know until people watch it what their perception of it is.
Yeah, you just don't know, yeah.
And so I guess along the lines of stuff we can talk about in regards to it, how long have you been currently filming that video for? And what percentage of completion is it at this point? So
I've been filming it for 4 years. Basically, after my dad died, I was like, all right, I got to do, like, I can't function in real life, so I should just put myself into something. So since then, I've just been filming this video, and dude, I've put in some work on it.
How long has it been?
It's been 4 years. Yeah.
4 years.
Yeah. And what's crazy, dude, is I have enough footage for probably 2 video parts, but I just wanted to make something that, and I'm sure you've done this too, where each video that comes out, you're like, well, sure, I'm proud of that front flip, or I'm proud of the whatever in that video part, but I'll tell you what it could have been better. And you watch through and you're kind of like cringy. You're like, ooh, ooh, I don't know if I kept that in there. That's not super great. You know, and I think a lot of people with my skateboarding, because it's so experimental, that when other skateboarders or people that are more like fully hardcore into it are kind of like, well, that wasn't that tech of a trick. Like, sure, he's entertaining. And so on this video part, I wanted to tick all the boxes of like, all right, here's all the missing elements. There's not like, you don't think I can regular skateboard, or you think my feet touch the ground too much, or you think that like 2 boards is too many, or you think whatever, that I do all of those things in the video part. And then I do tricks that you're just like, nope, he started on that skateboard and he somehow did that, and then he landed on the same skate. Like, answering all the questions so that not when you watch it or whoever watches it later, but when I watch it, I go, yep, that's as good as it gets. So if you don't like it, too bad. That's all I wanted. So for 4 years worth of like, dude, let me just make something that I'm down for, that if you don't like, it won't matter. Because my feelings were hurt with the other video parts when people were like, oh, that's stupid, your feet hit the ground too much, that's not skateboarding. I was just, I'm like, just kind of over it. And I'm actually deeply sensitive about that. Like, it hurts my feelings when people are like, that's sucky, or that's, you know, because that's not why I made it. I made it so you'd smile and like have fun. 100%. You know? Yeah. So
people just don't see the process. They just see the end product a lot of times. It's so easy to judge when you just watch something for 4 minutes, as opposed to knowing, oh, he's been working on this for this, you know, this new one 4 years. So my question for you is how many clips are left, or what?
Just one.
Just one.
Let me thicken the plot for you. Just one. That's what I went back to Colorado. I went to that original set of stairs where I did the front flip, and I tried to do a gainer down it and murdered myself like a month ago.
What?
Just like I landed.
Just murder Ted, yeah.
Just like, well, what ended up happening, I've been training it, right? I've been to Jam a couple times to try it. I like have this whole training thing where I go and flip to my skateboard and whatever and just practice to be able to just aim it. Because it's not one of those tricks that you're bailing. You're not going to bail it. You're either doing it, or you're not doing it, right? So I get there and I take a pretty awful slam first thing where I land, you know, I'm like accurate. I'm like, oh, I can flip and put my feet on that skateboard. That is not the issue. Yes. It's with gainer inertia, because you're always thinking with gainers, like when you hit, even when you come up short, you're like, well, I'll just roll out of this and everything is fine. Guess what? It turns out there's no rolling out of that.
With the skateboard.
Dude, I landed and went straight to my side. I don't know that I've ever slammed that fast onto my face, right?
No way.
And so I'm like, okay, well, I've been training for a long time. I drove to Colorado to do this, to help my brother film his video and stuff too. But this is why I came here. And so the next try, when I get upside down, I feel 2 things. I feel not nervous at all because I've like practiced it so many times. And 2, my brain was like, dude, you know how many times you've bailed down this? And 3, my brain was like, oh man, like you slammed pretty hard last time. I wonder if we should do this again, right? And I get upside down, and I'm sure you've done this before during certain stunts where you're so hyped up because it's terrifying, your brain speeds up. Your brain is 100%. Processing things faster. I get upside down, and my brain's like, all right, I'm ready to land. Where the heck is the board? And I'm still halfway upside down. And my brain's like, board's not there. I don't know where I am now. I don't know where I am, because it's thinking so fast because of the adrenaline. And then at the very last second, as I come over the top board and I'm perfectly aimed because I've practiced it so many times, and just move my feet to the left, and all my momentum goes only to my left leg. And just like, it's like if you were to like stand up, jump, and then punch the ground as hard as you can.
Yes.
It just, that vibration going up my leg was just like, and dude, I had in 2 insoles, and my heel was so bruised I couldn't believe it.
No way.
I was like, I can't imagine if I would have not, you know what I mean? Anyways, so the story is basically, I have a spot here that I want to try it. It's this really cool water gap.
Okay.
Or do I go back to Denver? But all I know is I gotta practice a tiny bit smaller scale, and just be like, dude, I want to know now in real life, can you gainer that far and not die? Because I'm certainly not going to do that again. So it's funny, coming off this injury, I'm just kind of waiting to see like how much can it take, you know? Because my problem is I only have 1 trick left, where I'm not going to work my way back in and do other tricks.
Totally.
It's just this one.
Just eye on the prize.
Or I'm just waiting for it to not. So it's a funny little.
Do you feel more pressure knowing there's only 1 trick left, or are you relieved that you got 1 trick left?
You know what? I'm relieved, but I'm also like, with everything that's going on and having a captive audience where people are like sitting around going, show me something good.
Yeah.
You know, people are watching and sitting around. Normally they would be like, I got to go to work, right? You finally, that I wish I wish I could get it done for that reason of having
Yeah.
people captive. And obviously, I'm not trying to capitalize like things sucky being, you
Of
know,
course, yeah.
the way that they are.
Totally.
But yeah, dude, it's just one of those things that I wish were over with because I've worked so hard on the other tricks like that. I'm just I really have earned myself a break because I'm over it kind of where I'm like, you know, when you push yourself so hard that you're like, I'm not going to scare myself again this week. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I am relieved, but I'm also like, I got to finish the race, dude. I got to do it.
That is crazy, dog. I cannot wait to see this video.
You know what's sucky is I really hope it's not, you know, sometimes when you make something and you've tried super hard on it, you've given it extra time and extra love, and when it comes out, people are like, good job. And then and it just, certain things just don't hit. That's just the way it goes.
Totally.
That I really hope that I've made a good, like, that I've guessed properly on this one, you know?
I'm sure you have, man. I'm sure you have.
I hope so.
And so my other question is, in regards to this video, is this your swan song? Is this your last vid? Or is this just going to be your newest vid?
I want to talk to you about this.
All right.
Here's the thing. I don't, this is one thing that's always baffled me, is I'm obsessed with change and people's directional change, and obsessed when people make that choice to no longer do what they're doing.
Totally.
I'm obsessed with it because yesterday you were fine and today you're like, oh, I don't do that anymore. Like, I don't even know. My oldest brother, he's filming a video for Lunch Break Skateboards. Like, it's a company we own, and he's doing a full length video, all GoPro, which is a kind of a cool angle. Okay. And he's at least 40, and dude, when I go home, he's like, let's freaking do, like, we're out filming skateboarding clips. No way, dude. Taking slams. We're like doing the thing.
Crazy. Okay.
So it's like, I don't know if it's in the family or whatever, but I don't like, yeah, I'll get into more making my own movies and directing stuff and cool little action comedies, but I don't know how to not, I'm all, what would I do?
Yeah. True,
you know?
True story.
Like, and I have pushed myself hard enough to really consider like, oh, I wonder how much your poor body can take. But at the same time, the more rest I get, the more I'm like, I wonder what else I could do. Like, I don't know how to quit, I don't think. It's crazy. Like, I don't even know. I was like, what would I, like, I'm serious. What would I do?
Yeah. No,
you know?
I get it. And for now, we'll all just wait to watch this one. And then I'm sure you'll get inspired on some other craziness.
Or everyone will be like, ooh, maybe you should quit. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I don't like not having something to do like that.
Yeah, 100%, man.
Yeah, which you're the same way. You're always doing
exactly
something.
the same way.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I just wanted to talk about briefly, because it's kind of like encompasses what you've been so well known for, all in one, is you've obviously delved into the stunt world. I know tons of projects that you've worked on, from, you know, like Walking Dead, Jonah Hex, and all that stuff. But I would say I remember that one. Wow. There's very few skinny tall guys, but I'd say the one that most people would probably be aware of, but just may not know you from, is you got the chance to be the stunt double for Andrew Garfield on Spiderman movies, and there was skateboarding involved in that. But I just know that from friends of mine that were on the set, a lot of them like to allude to the fact that they feel like Andrew was copying your mannerisms.
Dude. Well,
to be the character.
Yeah. Well, and which is obviously deeply flattering. And obviously, I think each person's own kind of like self-deprecating, you know, where you're like, oh, you really want to copy me, huh? Idiot. You know? You can't help it. Where you're like, idiot. Like you could pick anyone. But I think what's funny about it is he's so deeply invested in what he's doing that, I mean, I don't know how much. Do you know the story about how I even got that job?
No.
Oh, dude, this will tell you everything about that question. Is I basically, you know, I'd hung out with Ilram a couple of times, but not. I think I did one job with him maybe where Tempest. I was like the lead in this short film for Forrest Whitaker directed it, and they wanted someone who could act but could do some skateboarding, but also some it was like a weird, I was like, wow, that's weirdly perfect, but whatever.
One of those roles written for you? You're like,
I was like,
me.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's weird. Well, and they wanted Gabe to do it, and Gabe's like, I don't want to act and do stuff like that, so you do it. So they handed it off to me. There's only one job I did with Ilram, and he was like flipping off a car, whatever. We met, super nice guy. We maybe trained one time, and then went hiking. And that is all Ilram knew of me. But for whatever reason, when he got the call about Spiderman, they wanted him to double because they were like, dude, your movements and we've seen all your creature stuff and all your avatar stuff. Like, you're perfect. He recommended me. He recommended David Elson and a couple other people. That it was baffling because I was like, player, you don't know me, you know?
Yeah.
But, and here's the thing, I thought he was super cool. I just assumed people that he'd worked with and like been on big jobs with, he would recommend for the street cred of it. I don't know. But I thought my point is I thought it was amazing of him to be like, no, dude, you deserve a shot, right? Well, I'm in Colorado again. I'm like, of course, you know, when work gets slow or whatever is happening, I'm like, I'm going home. I have to skateboard. I have things to do, right? Call me. I'm in the bottom of some abandoned pool. And Vic Armstrong calls me. And he's like, hey, so listen, hey, we want you to come try out for this Spider-Man movie, and super casual about it. He's like, anyway, so the audition. I'm like, oh, my God, is it today? I'll fly there right now. He's like, what? No, shut up. No. Oh, and I'm like, okay, cool. When is it? And he's like, well, I don't know. How about I just call you when the audition is? I was like, yeah, call me. Like, okay, do you have your email and everything too, just in case? Like, yeah, here's my email, whatever. And I'm like excited to hang up, and my brother's like, what's up? And I was like, I don't know, maybe I got an audition, I don't know. Anyway, 2 weeks later, I'm still in Colorado, and they're like, send me an email, allegedly, and they've called me again, and I'm like, oh, are you guys calling me to let me know when the audition is? They're like, no, we're calling you from the audition. Will you be coming in today? And I was all,
what?
Will I be? Dude, here's what, by the way, this is the only reason I have email on my phone now, is because they emailed me to tell me when the audition was. And of course I was like, just call me like a regular person.
Yes.
In real life, please. Anyway,
check.
so I completely missed the audition. No. And they give me the like, dude, it's fine. You'll get the next one. And I was like, I don't think you get the next one when it's a Spider-Man. I don't think you do. I think I blew it. Super mad, right? Super mad. And so they pick Elson, they go with Ilram, and they've been rehearsing for 2 months at least, right? And one day I get a call, and I can't remember if it was, I don't think it was from Ilram. I think it was from Andy Armstrong.
Okay, yeah.
And he's like, hey, we'd like you to come down to the warehouse over here. We just want to talk to you and kind of pick your brain about stuff. Well, come to find out, they had picked Ilram and David and had them start rehearsing because Andy had sold them that, hey, the stunts need to be so spectacular in this, but also real, like a freaking Christopher Nolan movie, like real, like really, it's really happening. Or why do people care about Spider-Man again? Like, why? And so they had picked Andrew last, and so Andrew was quite a bit taller, like almost Ilram's height, but quite a bit taller than David.
Yeah. And
what ended up happening is that at lunchtime, when they was they were rehearsing, and he was practicing, you know, his flips and jumps and whatever, that he was scouring the internet, and he was like, you guys, I got to tell you that for this character I've been researching, and I really think, he's like, I used to do it as a kid, and I think it'd be really cool if Peter Parker was a skateboarder. He's like, I just relate to that. I think it's a cool character choice, and I know it's kind of late in the game, but I've been kind of researching people I think would be cool to do that. And so he pulls up my video at some point at lunchtime, and he's like this guy, see how he could be, look, this is how Spider-Man would skateboard.
No way.
And Ilram looks over, and he's all, yeah, I tried to get him to the audition. He blew it. Yeah, it's super cool. Listen, can't show up on time. Anyway. But yeah, and it was just a crazy, weirdly fortuitous thing where Ilram's like, yeah, if you want that guy, I'll call him right now. He'll be here in 30 minutes, whatever, you know?
Holy crap.
And so he passed my number to Andy. Andy called me and went down there, but it was crazy that it was like that. And then once Andrew met me, and I was very, obviously, you know me, I'm like, I don't even know how to be like, not myself. I'm like, this is just what you get.
This is what you get.
When I met Andrew, I think he just looked me up and down and was kind of like, dude, from the videos and you now and talking to you, that like, I just want it. Because at that time, I kept cutting my pants, and then I wanted to size them perfectly. So instead of just sewing them like a normal person, I would take in like different colored thread and circle stitch it.
I remember.
Yeah, dude. And they would like come apart. Like every once in a while, I would like land, and they would just become bell bottoms. Anyway, down to that, he made the costumers cut the pants and stitch them up like that. and just like all the way through, which it was deeply flattering. But at that time I was like slightly less comfortable with myself than I am now. So of course I was like, shut up. That's a stupid idea.
Yeah, right.
Don't say it like that, you know? But I do think it was flattering. And I think, you know, I think for him, it's a big deal to find something that's as real as possible,
yes,
you know, for that. And he's like, why, if you think about it, it was the smartest thing to do. Cause you're like, why find some other third party thing when all I've basically encompassed what I need for Peter Parker? This dude is like, I don't hate him. He's not retarded. And like, well, just so that he doesn't have to, and then he doesn't even have to make up those elements. He can just go, yeah, I'll just, hey, say that again. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna say it like that. Done.
You just character study every day.
Yeah.
With you there.
Yeah. So weird though.
So I have a question for you, from someone that has spent 4 years trying to make their current video to being on a Hollywood stunt set like that, where time is of the essence because time is money.
Sure.
Do you approach things differently mentally because you know that you don't have the luxury of saying, oh, I need to go again. We can come back to this spot down the road. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's basically the complete opposite juxtaposition of like the way that you film your skate style videos, where there's full pressure.
Oh,
there's
dude.
Hundreds of people watching.
Oh, dude.
And there's deadlines and things like that. And to me, it's just always been so funny to think like, how does Will fit into this system, man?
Dude. Solid question. I like that. Solid question. You know what? I think it's twofold in that when I met Daniel and I saw his consistency level completely out, like just blew my mind with that. From that moment on, I started practicing where Daniel would be like, no, dude, you should just do it because you want to do it. Like, don't film it. Do it because it's awesome. From that moment on, I started practicing my consistency with things where me now, when I film something, often I'll film a trick 3, 4, 5 times until it's absolutely the way it should look on film. Like, they're all landed. I've done all of them, but they're not exactly the way, like they don't give you that feeling that you're like, oh my gosh, that was awesome. Like, I just wait for that. So me now, I'm used to that consistency, but also I think another thing that I've really got is the midnight practice where I will just, if you give me like for instance, in the Spiderman movie, like I would never talk down about anything because of the opportunity and like what it's given me to be able to do those movies. But that movie is exactly 1/10. Like if you see the skateboarding section, it's 1/10 of what I could have made it. Period. Wow. Like just period. Like no questions asked, no cockiness, no extra. No,
of course.
I could have made something that was like, but as you know, all the constraints of the time and other people's. In fact, they had to film that section twice. The first time I was listening to Vic Armstrong and he's kind of like, I don't know, just do some of this. That I was like, yeah, whatever you want because this job is awesome. That Andrew wasn't happy with it. And he's like, no, we need to refilm that. And
Wow.
And so, oh dude, there's a whole, the stories to be told about that. But me now in that realization of going, you still have to stick up for yourself and go, listen, if you've known me to be this, and this is what you're expecting from my videos, that people call me all the time, be like, hey, come to South Africa, do this commercial. Yeah, if you give me 5 days to rehearse, I'll do it. But if you can't pay for that, I can't. Like, you're not going to get what you see on film, and why would I lie to you about something you're going to get when you're not going to get it? That's crazy.
Yeah.
So all I've done in my own evolution is I've upped my own consistency, right? Okay. Of like practicing the smallest elements all the way up to the biggest things that I can do, and everywhere in between, I know exactly what I'm doing, like at all times. And that was on me. I didn't realize that consistency was possible, and B was like totally useful.
Yeah.
Like
totally.
I didn't even grasp it because I was like, hey, I did it. Like, I'm happy that I didn't die.
And it's on camera.
What do you guys want from me? You know?
On. Yeah.
But yeah, to kind of fit into the system now, all I'll do is rehearse things. Like the other day, we were doing this thing for Terrence, and he, it's a very simple, they're like, well, we just need you to ride a BMX bike. And I'm like, but why would you pick me to do that, right?
Yeah.
But it must have been 5:30 a.m. And they're like, yeah, we want you to ride down those railroad tracks and then make this jump over this chasm. And it's like bigger than you want if you don't do BMX. It's just bigger than you want. And it was crazy because it like the training of like all the skateboarding and all the stuff I've been terrifying myself with is things don't look as scary anymore. Yeah. Because when you scare yourself all the time, you have a higher, like anything else, right? You just have a higher percentage of like what actually scares you. That it wasn't that big of a deal to me, but I immediately started like, they're like, yeah, we're going to shoot in 30 minutes. And every 29 minutes worth, I was like getting the bike ready and like jumping and do all the things. So me now is, if you give me time beforehand, I'll practice until it's like stupid, where you're like, you don't need to practice anymore. And that's the only way I can like really justify what I can do with what you're going to put on film with however many people standing there looking at me and me being nervous, Okay. That's the only way. Is like, well, if you tell me ahead of time, we're cool,
Yeah.
Like those 2 Bellman fights, dude.
Totally.
The only way any of that stuff happened with no budget
was time, right?
Time.
Yeah, time.
They gave us time.
So I have to ask you this. I'm happy that you're on Instagram because I get to follow along with all these clips that you put out.
Oh,
but
thanks, Travis.
The question I have is that, like, from someone that takes so long to create their current video to putting out clips on Instagram, which is such short form content where people just scroll, look for 5 seconds and scroll. How do you differentiate between what you're going to film for Instagram as opposed to like filming for your videos? And then the second part of that question is like, do you still get the same sense of satisfaction out of the little mini missions you do, like trying to throw things into your shoe, that you do getting out of doing like a front flip to the board?
Dude, it's what's very interesting, Travis, is it's taken me a long time to kind of rectify my positioning on that, like how I feel about it, because I'm the type of person that every single thing I do, I'm just like doing it like all the way. Like I'm just going to do that all the way. But what I find is the reason why I found it easier to like know which clips to hold back for my video part and which things to just put out there is because on Instagram, my sense of satisfaction about that, there's so many people that are so amazing that no one follows them, and there's so many people that are not amazing and so many people follow them.
Totally.
That I can't, my sanity for looking at that going like, why is this, that is just a back tuck on a beach. Like, what are we saying?
Yeah,
that I can't justify putting that much time into it anymore. Like, I feel like Instagram is about stuff that you're like, oh my gosh, that was fun. That wasn't a big deal. And then put it on there. I can't anymore because there's certain clips in my video part, like I said, that you go back like 10 times for something that people going, oh, I really like that, but I also like these shoes, that Kanye West made, and I'm all, that I don't even, I've like disconnected to it in a certain, and for a long time, it actually baffled me because I'd put up something there that I'm like, there's no way anyone has ever seen this before or done it. And only that, like, really?
Yeah.
But so-and-so who's like, has a workout routine every week that takes, like, dude, doing reps on a workout routine is like, I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm not saying it takes a genius either.
Yeah.
That
totally.
I can't justify anymore kind of my positioning of worrying about it as much.
Okay.
Because that's that's like the worst math in the world.
Totally.
You do your best thing and nobody cares. You do your worst thing and everyone's like, I like that.
That's sweet. Yeah. Exactly.
I can't anymore. But
totally.
But I guess that's what I meant earlier on saying, like, I hope I've gambled properly with holding back certain clips that I feel like truly are like, wow, this is really special,
Yeah.
And you know what else I think that people forget is with Instagram and stuff like that, because you're setting yourself up to go, well, it's supposed to be fast, and you just kind of look at it and you like it and you're happy and then you move on, right? Where when you put out a movie, you put out a real video part, there's a title sequence. There's a thing where it's setting a precedent for people to go, this is important. You should take time and watch this.
Production value.
That I want whatever that is. I don't want you to be like, I don't know, I liked it, it was fun. I don't want that. I don't care. Like, I think that is cool that it exists for certain people, but for someone like me that tries so hard with every detail of something that I'm making, that I'm being unfair to myself to expect the same results out of both those things. You're like, come on, people are eating a sandwich and seeing what they can, come on. You're like, that situation doesn't harness respect. That situation just harnesses whatever it happens to be there. So I'm trying to treat it like that now, you know? Like, if it was easy to make and it's fun, put it up there.
On Instagram.
Yeah.
If it took toil and hours and blood and sweat and tears, save it for the videos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would rather be wrong about that and be sane than the other way around. You know?
100%. So with all of the things that we've talked about, and obviously the getting the video finished is probably one of the biggest things on your checklist at this point in your life.
Sure.
What is on the horizon for William Spencer? And we kind of talked about it earlier where you talked about how you're fascinated by people making the decision to like get into something, putting their effort in, and also walking away. Not saying you're going to walk away from skating, But at this chapter in your life, what do you envision is next for you? Do you still want to delve into the stunt world? Do you want to solely focus on your own individual projects and achievements in skating and creating your own content?
Mm-hmm.
Like, in an ideal world, what would you focus on?
Oh, super easy question there, Travis. Thank you. Super simple. Boy, almost not worth asking, you know. Dang. Let me think. Here's the thing is, for me, the whole skateboarding, you know, this is going to sound, I hope it sounds petty actually, but you know when people say like, a professional skateboarder, and what's crazy is I guess a part of me is like, when some certain videos came out and they were really well received, I was so insecure about what I was doing or why I was doing it, or not being sure if it was good or bad, or you like it or you don't, that I didn't capitalize on people going, we like it, we think it's awesome. Like, dude, Cirque du Soleil hit me up when Colorado came out, and they're like, we want to do a show with you and Rodney Mullen in Madison Square Garden for Christmas time. And that's a huge deal, except for the people at the shop never called and told me that. They called the shop, and the guys were like, dude, he doesn't want to do that. You know, like typical skateboarder, like, that's so stupid.
What a sellout.
You know, and me now, I'm like, it's not that opportunity. It's all the ones after that people found out about and then kept. So there's certain things that I felt like I had momentum and then kind of quit it and killed it. And I was like, well, I'll just do stunts and not bother anyone.
Yeah.
That I was mad at myself for that, where I wanted to, when people go, hey, you're a professional skateboarder, I don't want it to be a lie. And so that's why with this video and stuff, I wanted to make something good enough that people are like, yeah, you're pro, you are professional at that. And I feel like it's true for me.
Okay.
Where I'm like, wow, if I'm not pro for doing this and trying this hard and terrifying myself, I don't know what to tell you anymore. So that whole kind of closing that chapter is for that reason of going, hey, if this video does as well as the other ones is what I'm thinking, I feel like there's some closure in that. And they're like, cool, dude. Now you can take the momentum. If anyone wants to do something, interview you or do whatever, then like follow through on it and be happy with yourself and be like self-accepting that you made this and just like, right, just own it. Yeah. And so once that's over, and we'll see what that does, who knows. But for me, I love delving into stunts. I love the people who are in it. I like the attitude. I like the people that I meet that I'm like, these people are not boring. Like these people are like down to do cool stuff. I don't think that it's less that I don't want to do stunts or like really delve deep into it. I'm worried that I'm in certain ways a liability because I don't like, I'll do what I'm told to a certain degree, but I'm still thinking to myself, I want to do it different than this. Okay. You know, like I want, like, yeah, I know, because people will say, well, it doesn't really matter. It's about the story. And like, yeah, we want to get the car chase in there, whatever. But I'm not like that. I have OCD where I'm like, no, if you do the car chase just like this, people will actually watch it and remember it. Totally. There's a reason why the Ronin, the chase in those movies, the like Casino Royale, there's a reason why you watch that and not the other 50 chases you don't remember from that TV show that they didn't have time to do anything good.
Totally.
And so for me, it's not that I don't want to do that. I just have trouble letting go. Like I really have trouble letting go when I'm like, you guys, we could have made something that people are going to talk about for years.
It's something I had to let go over the
years.
I totally get
and
it.
I know you know. I know you know perfectly where you're like, yeah, I do too, but not in 2 hours. Exactly. Like I would love to, let's move all these cars out of the way. Let's tell all those people in the office building to go to lunch. And you're like, well, it's a movie. They have tons of money. You're like, they have tons of money they'd like to save.
Yes.
That's 100%. What they've got, you know?
Yeah, it's funny, man. It's always been something that I've always just questioned, like seeing you fit within the mold of our normal structure and system.
Tickled by it.
Because I love it. I'm like, this is not what Will was born to do, but in so many instances we need you, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you know, so
well,
it's just
flattering.
It's funny seeing a circle fit inside a square or vice versa sometimes, you know, like that. And then great things can come of it, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's another thing too, that sometimes when you're, in my case, like the way that, and not to say my brothers are rule followers or anything like that, but the way I was brought up and raised and like to respect the fact that anyone wants you to work for them is that any job comes to you and that those things when you know, a lot of people are like, well, you know, everyone's heard of me, or I'm so great. Like all these jobs, I'll pick and choose, where I'm like, not like, I've had a lot of luck that other people have not had. A lot of things come to me, and I won't say easily because I work my butt off anytime I work, but just saying no to something that's coming to you, I find it difficult even when it might not be a perfect fit, you know, when you're kind of like, yeah, they could probably find someone who says yes more than me. But I find it difficult because I'm like, dude, I've worked landscaping for years. Like I work real jobs for so long that anytime someone's like, hey, we'll pay you a bunch of money to not do much, it's hard to be like, nah, I don't need that. I got to go direct my own movies, you know?
Yeah, totally.
So I do think that's I mean, at some point you do have to make a choice on that. And now I'm much more like okay with making that choice, where in the past I was just worried, like we all are, like, I don't know, if you say, how many times can you say no before people, you know,
forget or stop asking?
Yeah, stop asking. Think you're doing other stuff. So I mean, dude, the amount of people that will write to me on Instagram and be like, "Hey, I always liked your videos," and I'll write them back and be like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing. You really like that means a lot." And they'll be like, "Oh, this isn't really you. You're too nice." And I'm all like, it's crazy. You know what I mean? But it's crazy the like,
oh, totally,
how that stuff ends up just like affecting you when you're like, that's so weird. But my point is I really. It's hard for me to say no, especially when my friends are so cool.
Yeah.
And a job that's like, they're like, just fall off this thing. You're like, how can I say no to falling off the thing?
For money. Yeah.
You know?
For money, yeah.
So I definitely like dabbling enough to be useful to my friends and to people who need that. I really actually enjoy when they're like, dude, we can't do that. We can't find anyone. Just come. I really like that. That I'm into. Now, probably for me, my best case scenario, we'll finish off this video. Hopefully it'll do something for me. And I've had an offer, which it's crazy because things are kind of in the ether now, but I have had an offer to have like my own pro model skateboard and things now.
Cool, dog.
Which is a huge, you know, it's funny is like a year ago, they asked me like, oh, let's make you pro. And I was like, oh, I haven't earned it yet. And they're like, oh, that's a weird answer.
They're like, we're asking you. And
yeah, they're like,
you're self-denying it.
What? They're like, that's not how that works. But I just really wanted, in my own heart, I wanted to feel like that was a finished thing, you know? Yeah. So I was like, just give me the rest of the year. I'll make this great video for myself, and then you can, you know, do whatever. But I think moving forward, I would like to skateboard more in a sense of like traveling and going other places and doing tour. I never got to do the tour thing skateboarding.
Yeah, totally.
I always wanted to do something like that. So I'd love to do more of that and be a little more involved. I don't want to be too involved because I get sick of things easily if I'm just on it. But realistically, it's funny. I actually have a couple in the can. Oh my gosh, I have to tell you about something else too. It's relevant because it has Daniel, it has Philly D, it has, oh my gosh, so many people. But I'll tell you this first is that, I think that I have 2 or 3 short films in the can that are on the way that either I've directed or acted in or helped produce or whatever, that I am slowly moving to what I should be like. And I don't mean, you know, what's funny is the amount of self-importance that goes into a statement of I should be making movies. Yeah. But you know, it's mostly about like, oh, I just don't like listening to other people, and I don't like being obnoxious when someone's like, we're gonna do like this, and I'm like, ooh, I have an idea, and they're like, no. So it's almost to help my friends and other people so that they're not like, you know, even my business partner D, he's like, dude, you just make it so difficult. And I'm like, I know, I just want it to be great because, you know, I always say this, but like, dude, if you make a great movie, then you don't have to make 3 movies.
Totally.
If you make that one that everyone's like, we want that, who's that guy? Who did the, boom, you're in. That's why I try so hard on certain things. Cause I just want to punch the giant the one time. Totally. You know? But for me, getting to the short films and stuff should be more what I'm going towards. And I will. When this video part's over, I'm going to shift straight into that. Okay. And then the stuff I've written, I'll end up, you know, writing and directing with you know, at least producing and directing with my friends, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But I have, oh my gosh, it must be at least, it's pre my scar.
No way.
All this footage is pre my, I have a short film that I wrote and did with Daniel and dude, like I said, Philly D. Who else was in it? I don't know if Tim was in that one, but this footage that's 8 years old, and I did this little like, this funny thing where this mafia boss, he loses this golden statue. He like knocks it out the window. No, I'm sorry. He gets drunk. He leaves it on the windowsill. It's like his lucky charm as he's like betting on the soccer game. A cat comes by, knocks it out the window, hits me in the head, and we try and give it back. And so all this mafia crew is trying to get it back and starts chasing us down and trying to kill us for the statue. Anyway, it's one of those like, you know when you watch something that you made in the past, you're like, oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. And I really like it.
Totally.
Like it's so embarrassing that you're like, dog. There's no way people aren't going to be psyched on how bad this is.
Totally, yeah.
But it's cool. Scott Bass actually digitized the tapes for me. We shot it on DV tapes or whatever.
Shout out to Ampisound. What up?
Right? Yeah, yes, of course. Yeah. Oh, Scott, he's awesome, dude. But he is slowly transferring me the tapes over. And I've been downloading them, and I think he has. We already did 3, and I have one on my phone right now that's like an hour. I just forget old DV tapes. It's just end to end. Like there's no cuts, there's no takes, there's no individual clips.
Just a whole raw clip.
It blew my. It's so embarrassing. It blew my mind that's. But dude, it's so cool. And the coolest part about it is, bless him, Daniel's father died a few years ago, and I made him. I don't know if you knew. He's from Chile.
Yeah, I know.
And he has super. Have you ever met him? Such a boss, such a cool dude. But he has this super thick accent.
Yeah.
And I made him be the mafia boss. And he's wearing like this, like about this color house coat, like, and he just has this whole shtick he does in it. He's the mafia guy. He did a great job in like a very, you're like, dude, that's somebody's dad, and they were just like down for their son's project. It's so cool to have that footage now, especially because my dad is gone. Every footage you ever find of him is gold.
Totally.
So half of why I'm excited to make that and put that little short film out is for Daniel, because I think he's gonna be psyched.
He'll be stoked to see his dad.
That much footage of his dad, and that stuff is unseen. Like those tapes were lost for a while. Scott couldn't find them. Totally. Daniel had them and then like moved. So it'll be a really cool like full on blast from the past.
That's crazy, dude.
I'm excited about it though, except for the editing process, because back then, I'm doing shots where like there's not even a cut. I'm like,
just keep going.
Yeah, it just goes forever, and you're like, I don't even know where to cut. It's cool.
It's all gold though, and it's all on film.
Yeah, and it was all filmed there in Daniel's hometown.
That's
right
crazy.
By Liverpool. Yeah.
That's
cool.
crazy, man.
Yeah.
Well, yo, of all the things that you've accomplished, like we barely even talked about 1/100th of the amount of things that you've done. And I know that a lot of pressure is riding upon this video in your own personal life. And so I'm asking this question because I always ask everyone this before we get out of here. But I'm also very interested in it because maybe this long until I see you next.
True.
So where do you see William Spencer in 5 years from now? And where do you see him 10 years from now? And it doesn't have to be a professional answer.
Ooh, I like it.
And I think more so, whatever answer you comes to your mind first is probably the most telling about where you probably are focusing and are thinking about in that time period.
Mm-hmm. Have you had some great answers to this question?
I've had some great answers, and I've also had surprising ones.
No way.
Like one of the ones that I won't lie about that was most surprising to me was I've had several female guests on here before, and I asked them, and a lot of them were like, in 5 years, 10 years, I'd like to have a family and have kids and stuff like this. I had one of my good friends, Amy Johnston, in the chair, who's like, badass stunt woman, actress, blah, 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 businesswoman, entrepreneur.
Sure.
She's doing a live audio book right now from a book she wrote a year ago. And I asked her, and she didn't even make mention about family. And to me, it was just very telling that, like, that's where her brain's at.
Sure.
Her brain is just focused upon this shot at her career, this one chance that she has.
Sure.
And it's not a wrong or right answer, but to me, it's just very telling to see where people's minds and priorities are at this point in their life, especially as you and I are starting to get older. Like, it's a real...
Yeah, isn't that crazy though?
It's an intense question.
You know, people
ask.
say life is short, and you're like, yes, life, like such an eye roll. And then the older you get, you're all, oh, shh. Like,
dude,
oh, like think about it, dude. Like 60 is just 30 twice. Just dude. Like how like what?
The funniest thing I heard, I was watching this stand-up special. Oh, I wish I knew the comic's name so I could shout him out. Dion Cole. There, I wanted to shout him out.
Yes.
But he said something like this, like, any of y'all here in your 50s, clap. And they all like, yeah. He's like, you got 25 summers left. I was like, oh, damn. And the crowd went silent. He's like, that hurts, don't it? Yeah. Any of y'all 60? You got 15 summers left. I was like, damn. And
dude, yeah.
It's crazy. I put this in perspective. Connor, how old are you? 20.
Yeah.
You got a lot more summers left than me and you probably.
Yeah, but you know what's dude? You know what's actually fascinating though is as I've lived and when I was, getting out of college and like, dude, you got to do something with your life. Let's not have this whole thing be embarrassing. Let's not have it be a life that nobody wants to hear about. That the more I've lived and the more I've like pushed myself, the more I'm like, 25 summers, 20s, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even care actually, because I think putting it all out there in a certain way, the satisfaction of that I'm all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what else too? And before I answer that question, it's just that the whole like, no, you could live till you're like 90, but you're like, how good?
What's your quality of life at 90?
Good. How nice is that wheelchair? Does it squeak?
I was gonna say.
Like, dude, Dude. Like that sometimes you're like both going,
I've been very candid a couple times on here where I personally have, ever since I was a kid, for some reason thought that I may not live as long as most people do traditionally, and I've been at peace with that.
Yeah. Well, dude, and I've never, it's crazy, and I think a lot of people are probably have this same delusion, but I actually can't imagine living to be super old.
Yeah,
and like there's just something, there's like a blank spot in there where it's like, you can't even like grasp.
Like if I can't run, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like once I can't move fast, that's going to be a tough wake-up call.
Well, and it's just, time is crazy. And you know what always gets me is that so many things on this planet are circumstantial, where there's a planet somewhere where gravity's slightly less, right? So the wrinkles, like, they just don't happen as much because there's not as much pushing down on you. You don't like people are taller because the height, right? Going with like the pressure on your spine.
Yeah.
So it's
crazy.
It's just crazy that it just happens to be here and now, that we can't escape a circumstance because we feel like it's reality, when the truth is it just so happens that this is as powerful as we are right now to be able to, we are staying here but it is crazy that it is somewhere else. It's different and better or worse. You're like all the problems we think we have now. And then you're like, that's so crazy that gravity just happens to be like this here.
Totally.
Where you're like, jumping 20 feet's a big deal, and somewhere they're like, babes, who cares? But it kind of blows your mind, all of our getting old problems. Yeah. Dude, let me give you a very realistic version of where I think I'll be in 5 years.
All right.
I think that I will have slept on the floor and made no money and finally made that Bellman movie.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that Bellman movie will happen, but how well it gets received will be upon how much time I get given, even though it's my business partner and I should be whatever. Yeah. I guarantee you it'll be one of those things where it catches on heavily, or you'll just like have it released to Netflix. But I guarantee that will at least be done.
Okay.
But dude, I don't know. I think I'll still be skateboarding in 5 years, which is cool. I don't know. I want to say that I'll have made another movie myself that I'm really proud of, something heartfelt, but I don't know. As far as family goes, dude, I am one of those people that, I think we all have that inherently where you understand the family structure and it's an enjoyable fact that like, well, it's so sick to have people that come after you and care for you and carry on the name and the generation. But for some reason, for me, I'm one of the rare people that's like, loves seeing it happen, but I'm like, but not me though.
Yeah.
Where I'm just not, and like in a happily, not in a, like we're all missing out on something, right? Yeah. But for some reason, for me, I can't even, like, imagine. I'm all, no, probably not. Totally.
I mean, you can watch football. You don't have to play it.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. And having said that, being an uncle is awesome. It's so fun. And I have 5, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, and they are nuts. They are the next generation of like, where just stuff that took me a long time to work my way into.
Oh, dude.
And they're just like, and not doing any better than me, but also just flying off the trampoline. Like, I took my stunt pads out there to practice for one of my tricks or whatever, and just having the stunt pads, and I brought my mini tramp for fun, and they're just flying off of that thing, and I was like, I'm like, it must be nice to have an uncle who has all this stuff, because as a kid, that's a big deal to have that stuff.
It's really surreal to me because right now, and Connor can attest to this too, is some of the best trickers on the planet right now are 15 years old.
Yeah.
It's changed completely. Like, You know, it like generationally has changed where guys get so much better at younger ages. I mean, there's even those, you know, those kids right now, Sky, the skateboarder girl.
Sure.
She's not even a teenager yet. She has amassed a huge following and is a pro and trying to train for the Olympics. It's
well, and you know what's fascinating, and I'm sure, in fact, I don't know how I got through this without referencing this, but in Dragon Ball Z, have you watched it at all ever?
Not fully. Not like a lot of my friends.
Dude, whoever the guy that wrote that, deep down under all the cool like fireballs and everyone turning super, underneath that layer, that basic layer, he talks about something that is so inherent within humans that it's crazy, that Goku takes all this time to train, work his butt off, die a couple times, freaking somehow go to like other planets to train, become better and better. And then when his son is born, his son is automatically as good as he's left off, right? Yeah. It's just an inherent thing with, and what is really cool is if you could reset your mind every few years, you can just go with the next generation that's coming up, because the truth is if you came in at the level of like, well, no, this is just where tricking is, it's the acceptance that that's where it is. Totally. That you're not like, well, yeah, I've tried that a bunch of times, and it turns out it's really hard to triple, right? Yeah, like it's just, I don't know.
But if
you can get your mind, then seeing is believing. So watching people do it with people with no less, like definitely no less skill, and a body type that's no better than our own, that are like, yeah, you can just, right? And it's all in the acceptance of seeing it. And the next generation just comes off of by the backs of and the stair step of the person before that. But that's why it's annoying when you catch people that don't know the history of something, and they're like, yeah, whatever, I can't remember. Anyways, it's the thing I do. Like people tag me all the time and they're like, look, this guy did a flip or whatever, and I'm all,
I know it's possible.
Like, dude,
I helped open that realm. Yeah.
The other day, Chris Chan got this new car that he wrapped in gold, and it was hilarious. Well, I did a fake, like I just went and jumped off a mini tramp over the car onto my skateboard.
Dude, I saw that, and then Wesley Williams tagged you.
Yeah, and I was like, it's hilarious, because I hope he please watches this. I'm going to give you a lesson in manners, sir. He was like, oh, really? And then tags me, and he's like, who saw me do this 3 times live on my Instagram thing? And I wrote him back and was like, oh man, that's really cool. Like, I wish I could actually jump over a car to a skateboard, but it was like a competitive thing. Like, oh, you saw me do that. And I was like, player.
Yeah.
I need you to go back as many years as you can find on the internet and look at the jump over the thing to the skateboard, or the slide over the car to the skateboard thing.
Yeah.
Like, no offense, but you and I are not on a level plane. Yeah. Like, maybe in another 15 years or 10 years, we'll be here where you can say stuff like that to me, of all people. But what you're doing now, I don't think you grasp that,
totally.
Back then, everyone was like, oh, that's stupid. Why did you jump over the car? Where now everything is cool and everything is possible. You're freaking welcome.
No, totally.
Also, just a thank you. Jumping to a skateboard is cool and people like it now. That's all I need from you. Yeah. The comparison of jumping over a car to a skateboard with you, I can't jump over a car. You got me. Yeah. But also, I wasn't doing it for that. Yeah. And if you think jumping over a car is that cool to a skateboard, like, you got to be kidding me. It's over. Like, that is over. Yeah, it's real over.
It's been done. Yeah.
Like, dude, I can't imagine calling anyone out on the internet either. Yeah, like, where I'm like, did you see I did that better than you? I'm like, somebody needs to head back to sports and let skateboarding go.
Totally.
Like, just head on back to sports. Yeah, get mad at each other about stuff that doesn't matter. No.
That's so funny.
That is no,
totally, man. And I think the thing that you talked about, as far as you can be able to catch up with the sport generationally because you've seen what's possible, is one of the truest things, because until we've seen someone land something, we don't know if it's physically possible. But as soon as that first example has happened, it just opens the realm of possibility to know that the human body and mind is capable of it.
Totally.
And you've been one of those people that have opened that door in so many realms. And more than anything, I cannot wait to see how many more doors you open when this video finally comes out after 4 years.
Oh, Travis, thank you. I hope. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. No, I appreciate, because for me now, before I was kind of like put out a video and be like, I hope no one hates it, and like kind of run and hide. Where me now, it's I'm excited to talk about it, you know, because I think there's so many stories that go into something that much work, that even if you don't like that video or it's not your flavor or whatever, the talking points of how that thing went on and what happened to get there, and either what's missing or what can be improved. Like, I'm interested in all those things, because I've like really honed in on like, dude, I'm going to do what I'm good at, and hopefully you like it. And that's it, you know? So I feel good about talking about it now.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
Well, dude, more than anything, I not only appreciate your contributions to the communities and all that, but I appreciate you coming by and talking to me, and more so just for like the years of friendship that, like, even though we don't see each other, we still randomly will keep in touch and follow up on each other's lives. And dude, I am hype to see this video. I am hype, dog.
You know what we'll do to mess with everybody? I'll just give you a preview right now on the phone that no one can see. It's just your reaction.
And I'm just like,
your reactions.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Fake cardiac arrest.
Dude.
Yeah. But no, I appreciate the kind words too, because that's another thing for me is I don't really, I don't like to, I interact with people who are nice online and whatever. But other than that, you'd be surprised how many people are like too busy or think you're too busy to interact or have those things said that you like hope people think or whatever. So it's cool every once in a while to like the confirmation of that feels good, where I'm like, I'm out of the loop with that because I'm like heckling myself in a corner somewhere trying to, work it out. So
hell yeah,
appreciate
man.
it, dude. Yeah, I
really
really
hell
do.
no, dog. Well, yo, with that being said, before we get out of here, can you look into that camera and let people know where they can stay up to date and follow you? And most importantly, if that video is going to come out on one of your platforms, be sure to let them know where to look.
Right, a little mini commercial. Okay, so you guys can follow me at iWilliamSpencer on Instagram, and I do have a YouTube that is slowly getting momentum. I'm actually going to, hopefully you guys, once it gets momentum, I'll put that video up there, and I'll actually start with all the tricks in the new video, and I'll break them down for you. So I'll show you the clip and then whatever. Anyway, so I will give that to Travis so you guys can have the YouTube to follow as well. And that's basically, I'm not really a Twitter guy or anything like that. So those two places you can find me. But thanks, guys.
Hell yeah. Well, guys, as always, please be sure to hit that like button, comment, subscribe for brand new episodes each and every week. Join us every Monday for brand new jam breakdowns, every Friday for brand new JAMCast, interviewing influential members of the movement community like Mr. William Spencer himself. So as always, guys, I got to give a very special thank you and shout out to Mr. Connor Simon for running the cameras in the Switcher app as always. I got to give a very special shout out to our guest this week, the legend himself, Mr. William Spencer. And as always, guys, coming through, I'm your host, Travis Wong. Thanks for joining us here on another JAMCast. And until next time, we'll see you all soon. Peace.
Thank you, Travis.